now that other districts, they're experiencing a consistent attendance, we'll call it attendance rate, that they would in a normal school week. So we're hopeful and anticipating the same experience.
And Tim, Laura, John, do you have any questions for Dr. Mullins?
Yes, I have one. It's really, I'm John Torres, hi there. It's really amazing what you guys have been able to do in a short time. With this mechanism now in place, are you confident about returning to this model in the future again, if needed, if this outbreak happens again in the fall or, you know, in the future sometime?
Well, I would, probably the best response is when we received word on Monday that we were that the DOE was recommending extending closure through May 1st. That we were prepared for that. That didn't cause us a real pause or any concern. We've only seen our staff and the process for utilizing this platform get better and better every hour of the day. And it's flexible enough that teachers and staff can go in and make modifications to the curriculum, extend it. Our resource teachers and content specialists had already prepared lessons that for students who may not have online accessibility, we have printed packets, if you will, available for students. So we had already prepared those beyond the April 15th original deadline. So I feel confident we've got a great model in place that it's flexible, it's adaptable, and it can be modified to be extended if necessary.
And just to interrupt a little bit, we did have some issues with audio, but it seems that they've all been fixed now. So we will continue our conversation. Our apologies for those who were not able to listen to us. But we still have
as we exercise grace and flexibility, we're completely understanding that you have some technical difficulties.
This is all new technology for us as well. We've never done a live stream via Teams. We're using Microsoft Teams today and another online platform. I want to know if Tim and Imara have any questions. Tim?
Yeah, I had two questions. First, I mean, as a parent of a sixth grader, I definitely applaud the district. In fact, I was just texting with one of his teachers as I was sitting here waiting to start to try to troubleshoot a problem, getting into a science thing, and amazing help. But I wondered if you know, obviously this is not really akin to school. You know, we know it's not, they're having lessons, they're learning, but it's not the same thing as being in a classroom. And I know there's some parents and some students who are kind of stressing out about that. So I'm interested from a broader perspective, like what does, in your view, success look like? Like what should we kind of hope to gain from this, with the understanding that it's not the same thing?
Sure. You know, I think as Florida Today covered some of the community parades that we had across our school communities, where teachers and kids, just the celebration and the acknowledgement of our kids miss our teachers and our teachers miss our kids, and the extension of engagement of our teachers to their kids even over the last few days is just a real testament of the value and the importance of that engagement. Now, this current situation is stretching our concept of what engagement and interaction and support can look like, and that's a good thing. I think we'll leave this experience having learned there's other resources we can take advantage of and utilizing in our learning environments, whether they're virtual or whether they're back in our traditional classrooms. So certainly the ability to collaborate in person is not possible right now, but I think we're learning that there is collaboration across other mediums that we can't dismiss and we should take advantage of. I and my staff, cabinet, those that are on this as well as others, we meet virtually daily via Skype, and by and large, we're all in the building, but we are modeling this practice of social distancing. And remarkably, probably not to a surprise, we've not missed a beat. We are utilizing the tools that we have available to us, and we're staying on track. We're being as efficient and productive as we've been. So I would say there's some great lessons for us to learn, both in the business side of education, but also in the classroom side, that we can utilize even in the future when we can perhaps return to some, well, at least what was our previous normal.
And Dr. Mullins, I do have a question. Will seniors have all their requirements fulfilled by the end of this? I know this was a question that I believe Florida Today has gotten from some parents.
Yeah, and we get those questions as well. It is absolutely our priority to work with our seniors to meet any requirements that they may have for graduation. The DOE is working with us and some flexibility on those requirements, but our guidance counselors, again, they're working and they're following up with their seniors to make sure that they stay on track and on path to graduate on time. If there are courses, so we have seniors even at this time of the year that find themselves in a place that they've got credits they've got to make up, or work that they've got to address. So we still have those plans in place, and we have accessibility to makeup programs and that sort of thing. So we're working with them to keep them on track. We have every goal and expectation that our seniors are going to be fine to meet their graduation requirements. And we're sensitive to college applications and letters of recommendation and all those things. Our school staff have been amazing at identifying those things that we need to continue to support our seniors through. We've just got to look at it differently, and they're doing a great job of tackling that.
Yeah, I understand. Is there maybe a possibility that some seniors might not have fulfilled all of their requirements because of the coronavirus? Is that a possibility at this point?
I wouldn't suggest that there's that. There are always, unfortunately, as a former high school assistant principal, that was one of the most difficult aspects of the job, was to sit with seniors and sit with parents and talk through why they hadn't met graduation requirements. So unfortunately, we face those situations every year. We work valiantly through them with our seniors. So there is the potential that seniors will not have met the requirements for graduation, but we're working closely with them. But I wouldn't suggest that coronavirus is presenting any new or additional challenge to anything we haven't faced before.
And we got a question here in our live stream that I've heard a lot from parents, and actually the district has already answered it in the chat, but I want you to talk about it. The question was, why go back to school in May with only 20 days left versus canceling classes and sticking to homeschool program? The district said that you take your directives from the Florida Department of Education and the Florida Department of Health, but talk about that, about that decision making, and how is it going to look like to have only 20 days left before school is over?
Well, I think we're, to Mara's comments earlier, I think we're all looking for reestablishing the highest level of normalcy that we can. And we as many comments as there may, or suggestions that we should be thinking about not returning in the new year, we receive comments and suggestions, wow, can't wait till we can get our kids back into school and reestablish those interactions and so on, and that stability to the learning environment for our kids. So we'll continue to work through that on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis with the Department of Education. I think I've heard it said that Florida is really pioneering the way in providing a meaningful alternative to the traditional classroom setting in this situation. So I just commend our educators, our teachers, our administrators, and all of the work that went on behind the scenes to provide a real stable alternative right now for our kids, to bring some sense of normalcy and routine to their lives where they are at home.
And
Medora, I'd like to jump in here for a moment if I could.
Go ahead, Tim. Can you wait? Eric, Tim has a question he's been asking to ask it, and then after Tim Walter.
Well, if Eric's following up, let him go ahead and go.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, Eric Rogers, education reporter. Thank you, Dr. Mullins, for you and your cabinet for making time for this today. And of course, we also want to recognize Assistant Superintendent Matt Reed, Assistant Superintendent of Government and Community Relations. His team have been burning the candle at both ends to try to get information out to parents and to families. Has there been any discussion about extending the school year? We know that a lot of that question rides on whether and how much online learning will count towards instructional minutes. So has there been any discussion about whether or not the school year may be extended into June?
We have not had a specific conversation about extending the school year. We're waiting to receive further direction from the DOE. They have been receptive to considerations of instructional hour waivers and that sort of thing, but we've not received specific direction from the DOE at this point. We're really focused on providing our kids a meaningful experience, and the DOE has been very supportive. They have our instructional continuity plan and those across the state. So we're hopeful that we have their support moving forward, and we'll make adjustments as we need to along the way.
Sam?
All right. Yeah, before I ask my question, I just, to give you a little insight, I'm getting to see this kind of from both ends, where I have, a child who's doing the online learning, and then I have a wife who's also trying to deal with this from the other end. And I have to say, it's amazing just watching how her school is working. Her principal holding Zoom meetings with 100 people on it for all the teachers and everyone else involved, and then dealing with the program where they're uploading everything. So it's just an amazing Herculean effort that you guys have all done in just this week's time. So I commend you on that. My question is, so Rob Raines, the head of United Way, was speaking in front of the county commission the other day, and he shared a number that at first seemed like a good number, that the number of child abuse cases has dropped drastically in Brevard County over the past month. But he pointed out that one of the reasons that number is probably lower is because we don't have the teachers and the administrators who can recognize some of these signs and report that. Is there a way, or are there counselors, are they looking at certain students or certain at-risk kids maybe a little bit more than others that they know are in tough circumstances because they are at home now all the time instead of being able to escape to school?
Yeah, well, first, Tim, thank you for your article acknowledging the work of teachers, and as you said, it's certainly close to home for you, and appreciate the valiant work of your wife, and to support her kids, and also to support your own at home. So I just want to acknowledge that our parents are, whether they're teachers Monday through Friday, or they're in the business world Monday through Friday, this is a new definition of partnership. I mean, from the family to the school, and the school to the community. But to your question, Tim, we've certainly had those conversations at our cabinet level, concerns that we for our kids and our community. We're very sensitive to that. That's exactly why we have utilized our guidance counselors and social workers to not wait for concerns or needs or support to come to us. We're reaching out to our kids and our families first. So to build a rapport and interaction and so on. Our teachers do an amazing job of knowing their kids. They know them socially, they know them educationally, they know them, their personalities, they know, they can read kids and where they're at. And our teachers do a great job of meeting their needs. So we certainly have the supports in place where teachers can reach out to their administrators for assistance if they just feel like there's some additional outreach that needs to happen on behalf of the school. Our school resource officers remain in place and ready to go out and support, do well checks for our kids and that sort of thing. So we've got tools in place to be responsive as concerns may come to us.
Thank you.
And we're getting a lot of chatter here on Facebook about graduation date, and I know the district has already addressed it, but what's going to happen with ceremonies and prom? What are you guys thinking right now? Will those things even happen, or do you have a contingency plan? Could there be a virtual prom via Zoom or something? What is the plan? Every day we're finding new ways to think of alternatives. We have not made any formal decisions to do anything with prom or related activities at this point.
right now our direction and our anticipation is we're working toward a May 4th students return at the earliest to our schools May 4th. Graduations obviously don't happen until closer to the end of May. So, but that we're certainly aware of families needing to make plans and those sort of things. Our hope and our greatest desire is that our kids could experience a traditional graduation ceremony like we would want them to have. So that would be our highest goal and hope, but not at the compromise of obviously our kids and our staff's health and safety and welfare. But we're beginning to talk about alternatives and what are other options and what are some outside the box considerations. So we're continuing those discussions, and I appreciate I know our seniors are concerned. Let's stay focused at the moment on meeting graduation requirements and sticking with the learning, as well as staying on the graduation criteria track. We'll work through those other ceremonies. I'm actually I meet regularly, or at least I did in person over the last 2 years with our Student Government Association leaders across our 16 high schools, and wanted to give them this week to kind of get their feet set on their new learning environment. But I'll be reaching out to them and engaging with them like we are today in a Skype meeting type of environment. And I want to hear from our SGA leaders, kind of how are you doing? What are you experiencing? What are you hearing from your peers? How can we be more supportive as a district? What do we need to be thinking about different? What are some of the concerns, fears, frustrations you're having, and speak on behalf of our kids, your peers and our kids. So be reaching out to them next week and be looking for that opportunity, and we'll continue to walk out what the future may look like. But right now, it's kind of a day by day, week by week circumstance. So again, appreciate our parents' patience. We have coined the phrase grace and flexibility as kind of our mantra in these days. Being expressive of grace and continually flexible, and in my communications with our parents and our community, I've asked the same in response or reciprocation, so that we work through this new environment together. I believe this could be an opportunity for us just to become an even greater example of one Brevard.
Got it. And Eric, you have a question.
Yeah, so the district has been pretty consistent in its messaging about flexibility for parents utilizing the online system, in that there's no set time during the day that students have to log in so that they can work around parent schedules who may be working or who may have multiple children. But we've also heard reports from families saying that they've heard from their principals that their students have to sign in before noon every day. So I was wondering if we might be able to clear that up here, if you've received any reports to that effect and what you might be doing to address them.
I haven't heard that report directly. I don't know if that communication has gone out. We've tried to maintain the greatest level of flexibility. Dr. Sullivan or Ms. Klein, is that something that we need to clarify further?
Yes,
Why don't Dr. Sullivan, why don't you go first?
sure. We had Plan A, Plan B, and Plan C. And Plan A was originally a quick check-in in the morning so that our school staff could reach out to families based on the report on making sure they had any questions or access issues. We have since moved on to Plan B, which is students can click that I'm present button, which is brand new as of yesterday, anytime during the day or night. And then the following day, the schools will use that information to identify some potential access problems. As Dr. Mullins mentioned, and you guys have really good questions around, checking in on students is a high priority for us. And so we want to make sure all students are activating our resources because that's what keeps us connected with them. And so, yes, Plan A did involve some certain times. We have moved to Plan B, which is anytime during the day or night, the student will click that I'm present button, and that'll let the schools know that the student has triggered access to the system.
Ms. Klein, did you want to add any more to that?
No, that was perfect. We are anytime you want to log on, just hit that fancy new button and we will count you as present and check up on those that have not.
Laura, John, Tim, Eric, any questions?
I have one that I can ask. I was on a radio show last week, and one of the callers asked a question that I wasn't able to answer, so I'll ask you, and maybe you can help myth bust a little bit. So someone had called and said that the buses are still running routes and all the bus drivers are still working through this, even though there are no students. And I questioned whether that was accurate. So now I'm asking you directly, about the bus drivers and, what have they been doing? Are they really doing that, or was this person misinformed in what they were asking?
No, we do not. We do not have our bus drivers running routes or going into the community at this point. Our bus drivers have been given an alternative work site at this time. We've developed professional development training for them, so they are accessing that training at this time. We have put them on standby if we need them to support some of the operational functions of the district. We're working in communication with the union as well as our employees. So if there comes a need for their support throughout the functions of the organization, we've communicated that we need them to be on standby and ready to report formally. But right now, we've assigned them an alternate work site and provided them professional development to be working through. I'll use this opportunity to say one of the other priorities we've made through this is in prioritizing and capitalizing what energy savings, what cost savings measures can we put into place. Our schools are not occupied full time. We're looking at instituting our summer utility scheduling routine to capture savings even now, so that the economic future, I think, is on all of our minds, and we want to be extremely responsible and prudent in the opportunities we have in this moment. So just a commendation to my team. They've already dove into where are their cost saving opportunities and how can we be responsible to utilize those opportunities, to meet needs that may come up in the near future that are unanticipated at this point. Did I cover did I myth bust appropriately, Tim?
You did, thank you.
Okay.
I believe Mara had a question.
Yeah, I had a follow-up. It kind of does follow up on that, but obviously this is coming at what was going to be, or is a critical time with the half-cent sales tax extension. And what are you, looking ahead to that, even in terms of sales tax numbers? We're going to see a huge drop in that. What can you tell us or say about, as you're putting your budget together and looking to the year ahead, what kind of condition is the district going to be in? What are the chances of kind of moving ahead on that? How did this change your plans or change your approach on lobbying the community to extend that?
Sure. Well, let me start by looking back. We're still in the final months of the current surtax period. It sunsets in December of 2020. The great news is we have the sales surtax revenue currently has hit the projections that were established 6 years ago when it was presented to our community. So the projection was just under $200 million over 6 years. We've already met that with the current receipt of revenues. So the revenues from now until December will have allowed us to accelerate some of the opportunity, some of the projects that were part of on the list presented to the community. Exactly how those are going to be allocated is still up to the board direction. We're evaluating that now, and again, because we do anticipate a drop in revenue, even in this month and in the coming months, given the economic landscape for the entire country, certainly locally. So we're reevaluating, reprioritizing that, and more information will be coming forward on where we are today and what that looks like through the current sales tax. certainly, we know our state, our community is largely dependent on tourism, and it certainly is understandable. We're all times are uncertain as to what that looks like in the future. The process we're in right now is on the last board meeting agenda, the resolution that is required to ultimately present to the county commissioners to be put on a ballot in November for an extension or renewal of the surtax was presented to the board as information. It'll come before the board for approval to then submit to OPAGA for required timelines. So 180 days out, we have to be prepared to present a renewal to OPAGA. So we're getting opinion from them on whether or not they would require an audit that is part of statute. We certainly welcome that. We have had audits twice a year, every year on our surtax initiative now. We just had reported out the 9th audit of the surtax to the audit committee for Brevard Public Schools. And I just continue to be so proud of the results that the audit committee found expenditures, procurement, and projects were on budget, we're on track, and they are being spent on the dollars that we committed to our community. So that has been a consistent, I'll call it A+ for Brevard Public Schools in the accountability and the expenditure of those funds. And then the board in the district will be making a decision whether to formally present that resolution to the county commission in the coming weeks as we continue to evaluate the landscape and what the financial future looks like for our local schools as well as the state. So.
I do have a question about the meal sites. I know that there are a lot of them in the county. Are there any thoughts, are you considering adding transportation for people who don't live within 2 miles of one of the meal sites? And we're talking about families who need schools to provide food. A lot of these kids might not get any food outside of school or not enough food. So are there conversations to add transportation to children and parents who cannot just simply walk to one of these distribution sites?
So yeah, so we launched the food distribution a little over a week ago, as you know, and we had 13 sites originally. Every element and aspect of the food program has to be approved by the state Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. So we have to go through, we can't just make those local decisions. We evaluate the local need, we present it to the department, and then they give us approval. So they gave us approval to start with 13 sites. We saw tremendous response from our community in those sites, and we knew very quickly we needed to be considering expansion. So we did that. Monday, we expanded to 27 sites. We've seen participation grow. And as this situation, as closure is it has been extended, we anticipate that the need and the response will continue to be there and may even continue to grow. So we're evaluating what the response is, what the needs are that we hear from our community. We have talked about potentially distributing food mobilely, if you will, to certain areas. That requires specific approval from the department, and we're in conversation with them about that potential. You know, I had just a great story shared with me the other day about a couple of our employees. Couple of our bus drivers, I believe it was a husband and wife team. They are Spanish speakers, and they said, we'd love to make ourselves available if you're going to go into communities and need help, need drivers. We volunteer. We want to be one of the first to do that, and particularly if there's a community that predominantly speak Spanish, so that we can help communicate and reassure our families and kids when we come in and the sort of parents. So we're evaluating those and trying to find ways to become increasingly responsive to our community. But we haven't launched that as of yet.
Okay. Any more questions? I do have one more question before we wrap up. If Florida Today had heard that there were talks about a potential millage, putting a millage increase on the ballot to fund teacher pay. Many counties have done that, in the state of Florida. My understanding, not knowing much about it, is that this was very much in the preliminary stages of it. It's not really a formal proposal, but given the economic impact of this virus on all of our communities, is that still something that's being considered, or do you think that this is not going to happen anytime soon, given the circumstances?
Well, it has been a part of conversation in the past for some time in our community. Right now, we're focused on the current need of our community, which is providing the learning support. We had to make some timeline decisions related to the surtax to make sure that we put ourselves in a place that I could support the board's direction to move forward with the surtax. Specifically, there's a 180-day out requirement to make a renewal available to APAGA for consideration. So that's why we've moved in the direction of the surtax. But right now, our priority and focus is on supporting our kids, supporting our teachers, supporting our staff on the launch of our instructional continuity plan, while also ensuring the health, safety, and welfare of our staff in the midst of this. That has been our number one priority as we face this as a community, and modeling, adhering to, promoting social distancing, ramping up our cleaning attention to those high traffic areas, and being real attentive to disinfectant and all those kind of things. So as we learn more about budgets and finances and what the final state budget proposal is, we'll have to make some of those considerations moving forward. But right now, we're focused on the right things, keeping our staff and employees safe and well, and keeping our students with a level of support to maintain their learning and continuity to instruction.
And Eric has one more question.
Yeah, so the school district is working hard to provide meals to students who may not otherwise get them. But as we all know, the school district is also often the first point of contact for social services, healthcare, and welfare checks for students in the community as well. What is the school district doing to expand outreach to those students while schools are closed and making sure students get those essential services?
Yeah, we have, again, our social workers, our guidance counselors, our staff that don't have classroom students assigned to them, they're taking on those additional roles of checking in with students, reaching out to them, reaching out to families, and so on. You're aware we launched a mental health plan at the beginning of last school year in response to the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas legislation. That includes contracted services for mental health counseling with students and their families. So those services are still available for our kids and our families. And we have contracts for mental health support. So we have those services available. Our staff are making and reminding students and families that we can make that available to them, and so on. And we're also cognizant of our own staff. This is a stressful time for everyone. We're trying to manage a very different work-life kind of environment. We're trying to manage a very different personal life environment. We are sensitive and cognizant of the fact that it's going to take different tolls on different people. So we have support services available to our employees, and we encourage our employees to take advantage of those. But we also have those same things available for our kids and families. So would please remind our kids and families that we have counseling services available for them to take advantage of and utilize during this stressful time.
And Tim has a question as well. Can't hear you.
Sorry, there we go. One last question. I was on mute. I'm just curious because, the CDC talks about there's the possibility that we could see, this die down, but then outbreak again next winter, fall, which means we may have to do this again. Does the negotiations with the union and the contracts and the teachers, how does this affect all of that? Or is it kind of you negotiate how you would have, and do you build in extra wording, or what do we do if this happens again?
Wait, let me get my crystal ball. Tim, those are fair questions, but we're trying to manage what we can right now for the coming weeks. Trying to predict what coming months look like at this point, that becomes challenging. And I will say that the collaboration we have had with our unions has been great. We appreciate, they understand the challenges we're facing as an organization and the need to support our community and our kids. And I think we've done a really good job of coming together and finding the right balance and supporting our employees, supporting our kids, and so on. I don't have any reason to believe we won't continue to do that. Knowing what next year looks like and holds at this point, I'm hesitant to try and predict what that would be and or start making any decisions. We're really focused on staying on track and providing all the stability we can to our kids for this school year, bringing and ending it on time and meeting all the requirements that our seniors have. So that's where our focus and energy is right now. And if the future presents certainty of things we have to tackle, we'll do it. I will tell you, I face the uncertainty of the future with great confidence in the way our team has responded and managed the current circumstance. Because, we heard about coronavirus impacting other countries and other places. We were aware and we were like, could this come to affect us? But, it became up close, personal, and very real very quickly. And our team has done a phenomenal job across all layers. Our teachers in response to new platforms, our specialists in the preparation and the development of the resources, our directors, our district leaders in developing a plan and putting the architecture in place, and then our school-based leaders taking all of those things and working with them through the lens of the uniqueness of their school community. Our principals, our administrators, they know their school community the best, and they've taken the different resources and how to engage their staff and how to respond to parents. And they've just come up with tremendously creative and innovative ways to keep our staff and our community engaged in their school. So if we can do that in virtually less than 2 weeks' time, I don't have concerns. We can tackle any challenge that comes in the near future with great response.
I agree. Thank you.
And then we keep saying we're going to end this, but I do have one question. So I always have in mind the most vulnerable children, those who come from households where they might not have the presence of a parent who is engaged in their school. If you see a child is not checking in enough, I don't know if there's a threshold where that would cause concern for you. What is the district going to do? Will they send SROs to that child's home? What is the procedure in place to make sure that those kids who don't have that support don't fall through the cracks?
Yeah, it is absolutely a concern for us. We've got different tools in place. If we have kids that don't have accessibility, we're still prepared to provide devices, and we're working to obtain additional hotspot options for our students. But if accessibility and access to the online curriculum is a problem, we can continue to work with them. And that's part of the reason we're reaching out to kids we haven't heard from. And that's in more traditional means, by phone and other email and that sort of thing. But essentially, if a parent or a household has a smartphone, we can get in contact with them. We can provide resources to them, to the things that we have in place. But our law enforcement partners, whether it's our municipal police departments or it's the sheriff's office, and their support of our kids, have been fantastic in flexibility, and they understand that the role of the SRO or our security specialist is going to be a little different. and we're going to adapt to what those needs are. They are prepared to do well checks and reach out to kids personally if that becomes critical and important. So we've got to adhere to all of the CDC guidelines at the same time. So we're looking to make sure we keep our staff, all of our staff, safe and well, but also continue to look for ways to reach out and meet the needs of our kids. We get regular reports of kids who are logging in and so on through our great IT department, and then we provide those to our schools, and that's when they start, keeping track of the kids they are seeing regularly, who they may not be seeing regularly. Our principals have developed great faculty meeting alternatives for their teachers and touch points with them so that they stay in contact with them and make sure that we don't miss concerns or opportunities to be more responsive as a school as a whole. So there's lots of layers of options in place, and it'll likely get better every day as we learn more and understand more about how to utilize the tools that are available to us.
And how many students do not have the capabilities yet? You mentioned hotspots, assume a laptop or a smartphone. Do you have a number of kids who still don't have that?
Last report, we had provided devices to everyone that had reached out to us. So if there are kids who haven't contacted us or parents, we're still prepared to provide that assistance.
So you're waiting for the parents to come to you. Do you have any idea of how many parents have not contacted you?
I don't.
I have very little faith in some parents. But any idea, could that be the case, that there's some parents who might just perhaps not be as, like I said, as engaged and have reached out?
Well, and that's why we have staff ready to reach out to students and or families if we haven't heard from them. So if they're not logging in, we know that, and we're able to reach out to them.
Okay. All right. I think that's it. Any more? I don't think we have any more questions, but I want to give everybody an opportunity. The last one. Dr. Mullins, thank you so much, and thank you to your staff for being here with us. It's very important that we get this message out to the public. And I want to thank our editorial board members and Eric Rogers, and a shout out to Rob Blenders, our broadcast director, who was troubleshooting while we were talking. And thank you all for watching us as well.
All right, you're welcome, and thank you for the opportunity. I think it's a great vehicle to just continue to get more and more information out to our community and our parents of all the work that we're trying to do and supports we're trying to provide. So we appreciate the opportunity to use this vehicle as a communication tool to our community. So appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.